Greetings and welcome, everyone. It's All You Can Geek Moviecast, episode 680. I'm one of your hosts, Jim Gast, joined by Mike Sneedy,
What's up?
Corey Feinside,
Yo.
and Tony Korkanakis.
Hey.
Welcome, guys. We are live on Twitch. We are live because I just got notified. Tuesday nights, 8 o'clock. Please join us live for these broadcasts. This is our movies of the year. So the cool thing is, if you don't catch this live broadcast, hopefully you're watching this over on YouTube or the audio. You can download the audio versions on iTunes and Spotify.
Sure.
I always like to listen to my podcast via audio, so I'm old school like that, but I know some people like these video ones, and YouTube's very popular, clearly. So thank you for joining us on any platform you listen to, but we have a lot of stuff to go to in this podcast. This is, again, movies of the year. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean these are the greatest movies we've ever seen, but these are our favorites, or our disappointment. Not saying it's a bad movie, I'm saying it's a disappointment, to clarify for those wondering the criteria of this thing. So what we're going to do is kick off with probably our most disappointment.
No, start with the bad. Let's get it out of the way.
Then we'll get into that. But and I do want to give everybody a heads up. It is raining like a MF out there, motherfucker. I don't know why I thumbed it up. I don't know why I didn't thumbed it up at first because we have the explicit. But it is bad outside. So if we go offline, I apologize. We will shoot this thing at some point. But it's bad storms. So hopefully we stay. Let's go.
Yep.
All right, guys. This is our movies of the year. So we've got our top three, we've got our most disappointing, and our biggest surprise. I want to kick it off with disappointing movies. I would be happy to go first on this. I don't know if this is going to be mutually agreed upon here, but Ant-Man is my most disappointing movie of this year.
Yep, I'll second that.
Okay.
We'll third that.
And okay,
Watch it.
You didn't watch it. Well, you know what? Clearly, you didn't miss much, did you?
I don't know. We'll get to the problems with my list when we get to my turn, but we'll just go.
You have criteria. Now Mike doesn't. Now for those wondering, Mike doesn't watch as much movies as we do, so give him some leeway on some of his disappointing and surprises.
Mm-hmm.
But disappointing. Ant-Man, what a just utter crash and burn for Marvel in this movie. I feel like this was the stumble out the gate. Not that the other movies were shot after this movie, obviously, but I felt like this was such a huge stumble for Marvel at the start of the year that it just set the tone for the rest of this year going to the theaters for them. Like even the Marvels, which was supposed to be a pretty good movie, just didn't draw. And I feel like the stumble that this did hurt that and, hurt the universe.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big miss. I think it was a big miss. I was not impressed with
there's
this.
a lot of potential with this film, and with Kang showing up here, like, you really expected a lot more than what you got. And it was just a big CGI fest.
Yeah, and I mean, that's, like, it's not a bad movie, right? I think I said it was, like, adequate, right?
Yeah, mm-hmm.
And there's some good parts in it, but...
And that's what makes it so disappointing.
Right. No, like, that's what I was getting to. It's like, you look at the first two movies, and they're heist movies, right? So you're like, okay, this is going to be a heist. And, like, this one, like, you're like, oh, I got to break into the quantum realm. It's like, it's not really the same, though. And the tired trope of, like, what's her name? Janet, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like, we can't be here, we gotta go. And it's like, but I can't tell you why. And it's like,
right.
Come on, like,
spend days trying to get out.
Yeah, if you had just told us why to begin with, this would have been no problem.
Exactly. So you just have these characters acting stupidly, and it just, like you said, like the CGI, it was just overly CGI, which ballooned the budget.
Oh, yeah.
And this movie would have been fine. It would have been profitable if they had made it for what the first two Ant-Man movies were, where it was just like, hey, modest, moderate,
small
scale, budget, small scale, literally small scale.
I think his team, I think his friends were a big part of those other movies too.
No, absolutely. The fact that, like, I get, like, you want to have the family focus now because we're tying into.
Let me just, for guys, we will be talking freely about spoilers possibly on this podcast. So just so you know, I apologize if you hear spoilers, but we just talked about our of the year, so we can't help that. Okay, go on.
But no, like, I get you want to do the family heroic stuff, right? Whatever. But to just have it removed from the characters that kind of helped, the first two movies kind of, like, be more
identify the film. Like, the films were kind of like their identity was him and his crew and the heist theme, and it's a big loss for sure.
And the thing is too is, like, it's not like I would have minded, right? Because you have Ant-Man 1 and the Wasp 1 and stuff like that, and you have the daughter Cassie now. which is fine. You know, that's great and all, but like it just goes straight into the quantum realm and it's like, well, that's what we're doing now. And it's like, okay, well, and it also feels like a mishmash of like they wanted to address two different stories with like the whole rebellion thing, plus the whole Kang thing, and like, you know, Ant-Man's you know, personal stuff. So this is like, it just felt a little bit jumbled and not cohesive and stuff like that. Which is a shame because Kang, I thought, had a lot of potential, and like anytime he is on the screen with, you know, Ant-Man and stuff like that, it's really good. It's really imposing, and I thought that last fight was actually pretty brutal for.
I feel like I didn't like the last fight. I understand what you're saying, and I do agree it was a nice brutal fight, but I feel like the outcome of the fight, weakens the character.
No, totally. The outcome was just MacGuffin, like, oh well, you know,
magic
evolved over like thousands of years. Ants. It's like, what? Like,
And I think I was pretty high on this film after coming out of it too. Like I was like, oh, this is cool. Like I like what we got a little, and just like keep getting further away from it. It's like, what were the redeeming qualities? And I mean, MODOK in there, the way he was, that was just ridiculous. Like that,
I didn't mind
so
that.
bad.
I mean, the CGI for him was bad. Right, the CGI for him was bad.
Yeah,
but I mean, if you're gonna have MODOK, like, there's no way to do a live action MODOK and have it not be like kind of zany and wacky and stuff like that.
I got you.
It's so bad.
I mean,
though.
even animated MODOK is zany and wacky.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But like the thing that got me, like what I'm thinking about is like Kang is this like the whole thing is Janet's like, we gotta get away from this guy. He's the worst. Like he's gonna destroy everything. He's like, he is so powerful, and we can't stop him. All this stuff, and then Ant-Man, literally Ant-Man's and is it Janet? What's the heck? What's the Wasp's name? Hope. Thank you, Hope. Yeah, like just those two and like his daughter who has no experience whatsoever. They're gonna beat him. This guy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Who's had thousands of years or whatever, millennia, whatever.
Everybody's so afraid of him.
Yeah.
So
it was. The more you go away from it, the worse it looks. And if they want to do a setup for what was to come, this was not really the way to go about it. I don't think.
Good.
I mean, the
thing
ended
up not being a good kickoff for the event.
The thing is, I felt, and according to the rumor mill of the people that we usually hear from about the rumor behind the scenes kind of stuff, was that they really changed the ending, which I think totally would have shifted the tone of coming out of this story and moving into the Kang Dynasty and stuff like that, because you just weaken your villain by having him lose so badly.
I think we talked about in our spoiler cast is like he should have won, and they should have been trapped. Like Wasp and Ant-Man should have been trapped there, and
that's what I thought would have been. I thought that's where they were going with this movie,
and he could have gotten out, and like the whole thing's like, oh no, Kang's out. Like, what do we do?
Exactly. That would have absolutely changed the perception. Coming away from it, because you're like the way they ended, like, he's eating the ice cream or what? I forget if I think he's eating Baskin Robbins, and he's like, right? He couldn't, and then it just ends on like, maybe he's not, and it's like I hate when movies do that in general, and I think I've talked about that earlier in the year when I saw the was it Green Knight or whatever like that, where it's just like, just give me a definitive fucking thing. Don't make me guess, or you have to do it really well, a la Inception or something, right?
We'll talk about a definitive thing later on.
But again, it wasn't the worst phase whatever Marvel movie. Like, I think this movie really paid for the price for Thor Love and Thunder last year.
Oh, sure.
That's my personal opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it might have been so. Which was the disappointment from last year.
Like, that is, absolutely. But it's funny because, like, Ant-Man, I'm just kind of like, okay, there were redeeming parts. Like, I can't even name any good redeeming parts of, maybe one or two. But, like, overall, I'm angry at Love and Thunder. Whereas Ant-Man, I'm just like,
I'm disappointed.
Yeah,
I'm disappointed.
Oh, and that scene where he's climbing up himself, like all of his duplicates.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Fantastic.
That was one of the coolest, most original parts of that movie. And,
cool ideas, didn't execute. So, all right, Mike, what would be your most disappointing?
Oh, all right. Well, here's my disclaimer. I watched 4 movies this year.
Always disclaimers, Mike.
Yeah, because So there's my disappointment and my surprise are going to overlap with my top 3.
Oh boy.
What was the fourth?
The fourth is a movie that
we'll get there.
no,
Like,
I'll tell you the fourth because it's not going to show up anywhere else. The fourth is the Mario movie. It's neither. It was fine. It didn't
Gotcha.
offend me.
I don't think it
wasn't
made my list
excited about
either.
it. It happened. It was fine.
No, did not make my. Oh yeah. Oh, I'm doing number 3 by the way. For those wondering, I have 4 options for number 3 that I have not made the final cut.
you're doing it live.
I'm doing it live for you guys wondering. But go on.
All right. So
Mario is in there.
Yeah, so Mario's not in my list. My number 3 is also my disappointment, though, which means it's disappointing, but it's also better than Mario, in my estimation. Part of the reason why I'm disappointed is this movie was very hyped to me by you guys mostly.
What?
That would be Across the Spider-Verse.
That was your most disappointment. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
I have. Okay.
This is a very good 1.5 acts of a story, but
it's an empire though. Like it's their empire.
We're gonna talk about that film a lot later. So
we
are going to.
Don't worry.
It was 2.5 hours of sensory overload. I couldn't follow the action in this at all because it was just too much bullshit happening. And I watched it over 2 nights, and I'm like, oh, when is this gonna get going? After 50 minutes, and then once stuff starts getting interesting, it's over.
So the credits roll. I do agree with you that the hard stop roll of credits was kind of like.
I honestly didn't
abrupt.
even believe it. I'm like, wait, really? Like I thought I was getting trolled, but of course, because I broke it up, I didn't realize
how long you were
the
watching.
second half, obviously, after the first 50 minutes of premise, which wasn't even premise. It was just nothing until stuff finally started happening.
I think never mind. I'll get into it. I've got much more to talk about this movie myself.
So this is also my number 3. So it's better than Mario. I liked it enough. But yeah, we could skip my 3. But I thought it would be better considering its reputation. It just I ended up feeling I felt frustrated. I felt frustrated leaving.
Maybe
I think you can definitely hype things up for other people. It doesn't necessarily hit the same levels as everybody's different. So
I think it also might have hurt doing it after playing Spider-Man 2. I'm a little Spider-Man'd out at the moment with those two.
If anything, with all
multiple Spider-Man.
But all right.
That's what. By
I was more disappointed in the game than I was Across. But
totally loving Monarch, by the way, right now. Yeah. That you just because Mike, one of my finalists is Godzilla for number 3, and just reminded me how much I wanted to get into Monarch because of the movie. But it's just kind of a similar story here, game, but So all right, that's your most disappointing and your number 3.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Are we doing surprise or are we doing our top?
I think we should do the surprise, and then we'll do the top 3.
That's how we always do.
So surprise. Yeah.
I mean, if we don't have a 3-way crossover for this, also, I'm gonna be surprised.
D&D.
I don't know. D&D. No, Tony? Not surprised?
Oh, I don't know. You're just pointing at the camera, dude. I have no idea who you're talking about.
You didn't hear us? Dungeons and Dragons was my surprise.
No, I heard you, but I didn't hear you said to go next. So.
Oh no, I didn't know if that was yours. I thought we were saying.
I was saying I'm going to be surprised if we didn't have a 3-way crossover because I think you would have put that there, Tony. Is that you're surprised?
And it's assumed I didn't see it, so you don't need to worry about it.
Yeah, Mike. By the way, Mike, I think you would enjoy this quite a bit, especially now liking Baldur's Gate. I think you should really check out the Dungeons and Dragons. I really do think you should watch this movie.
My surprise is going to be a tie. I'll just talk quickly about it.
Right.
So it is Dungeons and Dragons, right? And we can talk about that when we talk about that, but. I actually wanted to give a little credit to Barbie as well because, when they first announced it, I was like, a movie about Barbie? Yeah. Like, okay, whatever.
2 IP movies here.
Right?
Look at this.
Exactly. So
I wrote this for my surprise initially, by the way.
Yeah. But no, I just wanted to give it a shout out because, that's legitimately a funny movie that was, even though it's based on intellectual property, right? It's just new and refreshing and what theaters needed this year to revitalize the box office because it's hitting, a different market. That's right. Barbie, it was part of the just media craze over the summer. So to not give it some credit, I feel would be misdue. But we could talk about Dungeons and Dragons now too.
Yeah, D&D was. You guys had watched it before me and raved about it, and it took me a little bit longer to still get to it. I actually followed up. I watched that after I played Baldur's Gate. I believe. I think it was right after that.
You were probably playing roller skate for a little while.
Yeah, it was probably during it. But I watched the D&D movie, and what a surprise! How much fun and enjoyable that movie is. That's the best way to describe it: fun and enjoyable. There's nothing that's going to set the bar for things. It's not going to be like, oh, I was mind blowing, but it is for me it was like the essential like summer movie block, but like a fun movie you want for those summertime. It hit like perfectly for that feeling. It's not, you don't see this movie type anymore, like in my opinion. Like you don't get this fun movie enough, I feel like, where it has such a, I mean, just a good cast of characters, and they all pull off their roles fantastic, and it was well written, like, and the jokes landed. The jokes landed. Yeah. That's so
it's hard.
Rare.
It's hard to do.
Yeah,
and I think you mentioned this in this. If we do this podcast for this, I think we talked about it for sure. But I know Tony, you mentioned like not being a big D&D fan, like you didn't need to be a D&D fan to enjoy this film. You didn't need to know all the inside jokes or anything, because all the jokes were fairly like obvious or just like hit on so many levels that if you were a fan, it maybe hit a little differently, but if you weren't, you still got a good laugh. And just the characters themselves, their stereotypes, all of those things played into their roles in this film, and it just made it all come together so well. And the actors playing those roles like played them perfectly.
Yeah.
And just it was just a fun story. It's just like it's just, you don't see fun uplifting stories in a way like this, even though it's like, again, we have some serious things that are happening with certain motivations, but all the in the end everything was like an uplifting thing, and the moral of the story type of thing, and like the mother at the end, that whole like, all of that just fits so perfectly and just like felt so satisfying as far as a conclusion to a film. The adventure up into that point, all those things coming together really just made this film just come out of nowhere, because it absolutely had no right being as good and fun as it was.
When you hear about this movie being made, all you think about are the older D&D movies that are just so bad.
Yeah, and the video game, like Uwe Boll, whatever was his name, right?
Yes,
like somebody did some stupid.
Uwe Boll.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the thing is that it kind of like Barbie, whereas like when they announced this, I was like, oh, cool, another D&D movie. Can't wait for this to be.
Absolutely.
But
generic fantasy, here we go.
Yeah. All the actors and actresses did a great job. Like, I can't think of a bad character or portrayal performance in this movie. Like, they all really nailed their roles. They all had chemistry together, like they felt genuinely like a D&D party, right? Which is the one thing you need to nail about this, right? Because like if you don't nail that, then what's the point of watching this, right? What's the point of even making this movie?
Right. I mean, that is the fun part. Like, if you've ever played D&D, there's that vibe you get when you first start out of like you're friends with everybody usually in that part. Like you're friends with friends, but when you start a D&D adventure together, like there's a different feeling because you don't know who those people are playing. Like you don't know them at that point, and you should really get that vibe. And I felt like strangers coming together story and it working like as they learned each other's strengths and weaknesses as a team. That's D&D. I mean, that really is what it worked out to be, and I thought that was such a great representation on film to finally capture. And I'm not a huge D&D player, but I know I've played it, and I know how that feeling is. And you get that feeling at the beginning of this movie, and then by middle you're like, man, I'm starting to really care about this team. And then by the end you're like, it's a great team, So that's
the villain. You talk about all the time. Gotta have a great villain. Yeah, I had two really good. Like one that was like
they're
like
both
threatening,
so good to
and
like
then,
hate. Right.
Love the hate. One was like a threatening villain, and the other one was just like a scumbag. That just you want to kick this guy in the nuts, and it's just like what are you? So it's like perfect, like not the opposites, but just a perfect antagonistic approach to because the characters are not necessarily good people either, right? The heroes, they're the thieves or whatever, and so they're not good people, but they're fun-loving and have moral like standards. Whereas this villain is just going to do whatever it takes to get his way and all that stuff. And then you have like the just pure evil, threatening one, and I love that part of it too, where you had different types of heroes and villains and things like that. It wasn't this generic I'm going to destroy the world and or I want all the money. It just like it was nice to have that variety.
Different motivations. Yeah. I mean, I would say that
like the roller coaster of emotions too. Like you laughed, you cried. It's like you went through all of them.
To this, like thinking back to the movie right now with the mimic melting is like I still laugh thinking about that scene where that he melts away. I'm just like
it was really good.
It was really good. I mean, I would say that to this, like, thinking back to the movie right now with the mimic melting is like I still laugh thinking about that scene where he melts away. I'm just like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was really good. It was really good. It was really good. It was really good. Yeah. So, all right, Mike, what was your surprise? There you go.
My surprise is my number 2. So,
Going through your list,
I
right with each other. Good.
yeah. Um, so keep in mind I watched this right after Spider-Verse, which is funny. The Ninja Turtles: Mutant Mayhem.
Yeah, did not make my
It
list,
was
but it's a great movie. Great movie.
it was a surprise in that I liked it a little more than I thought it would. There's parts I really didn't like the beginning and the end. um, but overall, it was more fun than I thought it would. I, voices didn't bother me except for Donatello's. They really didn't seem too young, other than that. But I didn't like their origin or the ending. But also compared to Spider Verse, like it's obviously inspired by that same sort of comic booky look. But this one, it was just more stable. Like again in Spider Verse, there was a part where I didn't even know if it was like something was happening or if it was just vibes, like with the universe closing in. But none of that was happening in this movie. It was more more legible to me.
Yeah.
Jackie Chan as Splinter was great,
I
like
thought we
a
pulled it off
real
pretty well.
highlight,
Yeah, absolutely.
a real highlight.
I thought
And
all of the voice actors did a fantastic job. To give them credit, like every one of them was cast, and you're like, that's not going to work well, but they worked pretty well. Like I gotta say.
yeah. So the meat of the movie I liked. It's just I didn't like the origin and I didn't like the ending. The ending
They
was
took some
dopey.
liberties, and in the ending they really eased up. But they did take some origin liberties, which I thought like for when they started the movie, I was like, what's funny is when they started that movie, I'm like, Mike's not gonna like this, and I didn't like it either, but I immediately thought of you during it. I'm like, he's not gonna like this.
No,
Um,
because they made that you take liberties with that origin to make it make more sense, and they made it
I mean, it make
make
yeah,
less sense.
absolutely.
Um, and then the ending, like there's the stinger has no impact
Mm-mm.
because of the origin. There's no there's no tie to that character based on
No,
this origin. It's
it's
stupid,
like
but
I know there's gonna be a sequel to this, and I wonder where they're gonna go with. Well, we can spoil it here. I mean,
yeah,
Shredder,
yeah.
Shredder essentially.
Shredder's a
Um,
stinger, but Splinter was just a fucking rat who hated people. Like
yeah,
there's
Splinter
no
has
tie.
no
There's
tie to
there's no
Shredder.
tie. He doesn't even have a a human master like he did in the
No,
Isn't
nope,
that how it is
no
in the
ties.
comics?
comics.
Yeah, I mean
The comics, no, the comics. The human master was killed by Shredder, and Splinter was like his pet, so he knew him. Here,
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Splinter's
There was a
just like
relationship.
Okay.
There's
a
no
random
tie as
street
far as
rat.
we're aware to Shredder in this movie in this world. So
Gotcha.
yeah, I mean
But
that was my gripe with the origins, the
yeah,
most part. But
yeah, no, I have. There's things I loved and hated about this movie. Obviously, I didn't
it
like
was
any
so
movie all that much this year,
yeah.
but
But visually,
that's why it's two.
this
No, it
movie
was
was
cool.
great.
It looked
It was
cool.
really great. Yeah.
Aside from the humans, every human, including April,
I mean,
looked kind of weird. Maybe that
as
was part of the story reasons, because like the whole idea is like humans suck and like they're always gonna hate the mutants.
yeah.
But
I
every
mean,
human looked weird.
they pulled an X Men
This movie.
story out, is what they did, and
A little bit. Yeah.
you gotta
Very rushed
give
X-Men story.
yeah, you gotta give Seth Rogen credit because at the beginning of this year, I would have never thought that we'd be talking about it like that in this light because I didn't think it was gonna be that good, but it was very good.
No, I liked it more than I thought. So
So yeah, no, good, good to hear.
surprise.
Okay, surprises and your number two. So you've done your number two and three.
Yeah.
Let's go to our number threes, guys. I will love to kick off the list, and I'm gonna make my final choice right now. It was between Guardians, Godzilla, Mario, and Creator. Godzilla takes number three for me. Um, I didn't want to do recency bias for it. That was my concern. Like I put it there, but I was like, I gotta consider Guardians. I gotta consider Mario, because Mario was so good. Um, and the creator was excellent. I gotta say, Denzel Washington is it Denzel Washington's kid in that?
Yeah.
You just found this out last week. Fantastic work. But Godzilla, wow, what they pulled off in this movie, and I had zero interest. This could have been my surprise, because I had zero interest in this movie until everybody started raving about it. And with the budget they used, but the story they told, it's incredible. Visually amazing movie, and again, like you guys had said, it is really about the people, not about the monster. In this, and they really make you care about that, despite people snoring in my theater while I was watching it. I just still couldn't believe that. I don't know how you sleep through Godzilla destroying a city. I don't know how you do it, but this guy did. I figured he'd wake up then, but nope. But yeah, man, you guys talked about the fact that his tail, that light up move, it's so slow but build up impactful that it's scary the way they do it. It's just like, oh shit, he's gonna fuck shit up. And you know, I do gripe a little bit about the super, and this isn't me talking about this, the super mega happy ending I got. I felt was a bit too much for me. I thought they could have ended it differently. But I don't hate it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not complaining. I'm just telling you that I felt the ending didn't have to be as happy as it was. I felt like they could have ended it differently. And I'm keeping that vague because it is a fresher movie. So, but that's just me. I don't know. That was my number 3. I thought it was amazing. I don't know if it's going to appear on your list anywhere else. Hopefully we hear more about it from you guys, your thoughts. If it doesn't appear, you guys can feel free to chime in if you want, but you know, I don't want to make you silent. Okay. That's my number 3. Corey, what's your number 3?
Oh, my number 3 is Godzilla -1 as well.
Okay, see, you could chime in.
Oh, yeah, I know. I didn't want to step on your chance to speak about it. But no, my number 3 is Godzilla as well. I found it to be really amazing. Like you said, I think what they did and what people think Godzilla movies are from Japan and what this movie is like, it shows that that's not what they are anymore. They make really good movies, but not just Godzilla movies.
If you go back to the original Godzilla movie, this is what this director was capturing. Like, he wanted that feel of what the original Godzilla movie was supposed to be about. Now, granted, it was campy because it was like 1959 or 1960, but like that's what the vibe of that director was going for in that first movie, and they nailed it for the first time. And how many Godzilla movies have we had? They finally got that feeling back. It's unbelievable. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and like, the monster is scary. The people, the actors, I give them a lot of credit. They did a fantastic job. And it was, for me, hard to like the protagonist initially.
I agree.
And they shit on him so much in this movie. So I was not I had no problem with the ending.
You hate that trope.
Yep.
Yeah.
I know. Like, it was funny because, like, when I was watching it, because you talked about it, I was like, oh, I don't want to know that much about it. I'm watching it, I was like, oh, I absolutely see. Like, Corey hates this type of fucking character. I know. We talk about it all the time for the various anime and because you just hate this trope. I knew it.
So, but I felt like they did enough to redeem the character and to make it feel like, all right, you gotta give them something here. And so I was fine with the ending, and just like every moment of that movie was just a adrenaline rush. Even from them just like going out and destroying mines like on a boat, you're still like fully engaged because of how capturing like the actors just like keep you enthralled in this film no matter what's going on. It doesn't have to be a monster destroying a city. It's just the interaction between the characters, and then the slow moments of like small little happiness moments where they're having dinner and stuff and like talking about
drinking
things and just like having like a little bit of slice of life there, which was a nice break to then just get destroyed in the next scene with I'm starting work and now my work is gone. So it's a fantastic film, and it's going to be hard to top that with these American just monster smashing each other movies.
Yeah, that's going to change the dynamic. And I am happy though that they've seemed to capture this vibe with Monarch. That's what I was saying before we started. Like, I am enjoying the way they've kind of got this family thing going on.
About people, not about monsters. Just...
The monsters are the side characters. All right, Tony, what's your number 3?
My number 3, I think we'll talk about it, but mine was Across the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, we will talk about it.
Yep.
Do you want to mention why, though? I mean, do you want to just go ahead?
Yeah, I mean, what can I say? It was really good. I thought the animation was kicked up another level. There were surprises in how they did it, right? Because, like, I felt the original was just so fresh. It's such an interesting take, right? I think we all remarked about that the year it came out, and I think it was number 1 or number 2 for most all of us that year. And I felt like this one, with the Lego scene, or even like Donald Glover being in there, like live action and stuff like that. Not to mention like some of the snippets when they're looking at like the different movie verses and stuff like that. It was just fun and surprising and stuff like that. The story is good about Miles, growing into the heroic role that he has of being Spider-Man now, while still learning how to juggle his real life responsibilities with school and his family and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that kind of and I just rewatched it, right? I just rewatched it just to cement my feelings, right? Because it came out a couple months ago. And don't get me wrong, like to me, I love the characters. It felt more of a Gwen movie than a Miles movie at a lot of points, which is not wrong necessarily, right? And I think the scenes with her and her father are great, right? They're
fantastic,
emotionally touching, right?
Yeah.
Because we don't really see that interaction a lot because most of the time, Spider-Man's parents are dead, right? So seeing that is a different take and a new experience, and that was lovely. The part where it kind of broke, I guess that it didn't rank higher, was like the ending was a bit of an Empire ending, but after a second rewatch, I was like, well, you know what? It wasn't that down of an Empire ending, right? It wasn't like shit is bad. It was just kind of like, oh, things are a little messy, right? Where it's like, I'm not concerned about him being able to walk out of this, right?
Got it.
Yeah, I don't
Gotcha.
know. I was fairly like, I knew what was gonna happen there like 10 minutes before it did, and that was like the ending. I was like, oh, it's like
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they even like hint at it, pretty strongly with the whole like, oh, that spider isn't from your verse and stuff like that. So that was the one thing, but the other thing that really, I guess, and it's not like a major thing. Again, the movie is fantastic. Like I'd rate it like 9 something out of 10. But to me, the one thing that just didn't sit right, especially on the rewatch, was just how you have this gigantic cast of like dozens, if not hundreds, of Spider characters, right? And them all going after Miles so hard, and them just being okay with like, hey, your dad has to die. Like that's part of the canon. I was just like, like the more I think about it, the more I disliked it because across all the Spider personalities I've seen over the various cartoons, the movies, the video games, comics, there are very few Spider people that would actually be okay with that. That says you need to sacrifice your dad for the greater good because it just has to happen. Like when in my heart of hearts, it just does not feel true to the
thing.
That was the whole premise of it, and I think.
Sure, but I mean, this is since I'm the lowest on this movie. The idea is
you both ranked it 3. You both ranked.
Yeah, I know.
He's 3 out of 4.
Yeah.
No, it's just the premise of it is every other Spider-Man, every like Peter Parker we've ever seen,
The idea is this is the
same character who's like literally like fucks everything up repeatedly because he doesn't want anyone to die. Like every other Peter Parker that I've read, even Miles, like would do the same. We don't even know if there's other Miles in this universe. They're acting like there's not.
There's not. Miles is the only one. That's why he's the odd. He's the odd person out.
That's
what
I
got
don't know that
vibe.
for sure.
Yeah,
I mean,
saw another one at the end of the movie. What are you talking about?
No, we mean Spider
people.
So he wasn't supposed to be Spider-Man. That was the point of the movie.
But
see, they introduced
it just seemed
Miles
out of character for every Spider-Man in the universe to be like, the ends justify the means. We'll let people die. Like that's just. I feel like it's almost like you have like a Batman verse movie and like they're just like, let's kill Joker.
Right, because Batman, I could see Batman being like, yeah, sorry, our parents got to die. But like, I cannot see all these other Peter Parkers, whatever. And the thing that got to me too was the fact that like his crew from the first movie all knew about this
right away,
and just like didn't tell him. Like the part where he's on the train, they're like, "This is not what we talked about," and he's like, "You guys talked about this?" I was like, "Nah, you guys fucked up. You guys are bad people."
See, the thing I got the vibe from was that this has been tried multiple times by multiple Spider-Man, and it never works.
They're not talking about that. It's Miguel's whole thing where he's like, "It happened to me once, so it's gonna happen to everybody." It's like, dude, how do you fucking know that? Like, how do you fucking know that? You have a hypothesis, you test it.
Not to mention, if he's not supposed to be Spider-Man, what difference does it make if his thing changes? He shouldn't have a canon event,
right?
He's not.
If he wasn't supposed to have the spider power, then his whole universe should have collapsed already by now. Like it just proves his like theory as bunk anyway, and nobody stands up to him. It's just like, you're like a fucking spider dictator, dude. Like, I don't know. Again, whatever. That's just my personal take on it.
I just wanted more like of this movie to happen after we get there, so we could explore these questions a little better. There's just so much time happens before we get to the point where you understand like what's going on with them, and it's like, all right, now it's the end.
Yeah.
That was just why I didn't like it as much as I thought I would.
That's valid points. I mean, it's still
that's valid.
Pretty high for you
No,
guys.
it's a great movie. It's just when I rewatch it, I'm like, ooh, a couple of these points don't sit well with me.
Yeah.
All right.
Makes sense.
Number twos. My number 2 was Barbie.
Ah, okay.
There it is.
Okay.
Nice. Again, I wrote it down for my surprise, but I was like, no, because D&D wasn't going to be my number 2 movie. No offense to D&D whatsoever.
I didn't want to have any crossovers.
Yeah, and I didn't either. So I wanted Barbie was. What's funny is when I took my family to see the movie, I had no idea what I was in for, and I just left there smiling so much. Like it was just so fun, enjoyable. The music was so good. To this day, when Aria wants to listen to it in the car, no problem putting it on. I have no problem. I fully admit that. I fully admit that right now. I have no problem listening to that music in the car. Just Ken. I'm Just Ken is such a great song. But even like the executives parts of the movie, like the Will Ferrell parts, were so hilariously done with like, just move on. Don't ask the question. Don't ask the questions. It's just they sum up the movie essentially as you go. So it's like you watch that movie, don't think too much from it. Obviously, there's a great underlying story that it gives you, a moral, but the actual main plot, just enjoy it, and that's the point of it. And you can enjoy a lot of that. I don't like Michael Cera. I hate him. I think he's like Scott Pilgrim was about it for me. For him, like I just don't like the way he does things. Scott Pilgrim worked because of the way he does things. Like that worked as his character, but he's always that character. But in this movie, it worked again. So you know what I mean? I think he was great. Ryan Gosling, fantastic. Margot Robbie, what can I say? Like I didn't know what people were talking about because I haven't seen much of her work except for Birds of Prey and stuff like that. And I didn't think she's that great as Harley. She's fine. I'm not complaining, but wow, she's fantastic. She's got like range like crazy. Mm-hmm. You can see it from this movie the way she has to pull things off.
You didn't see Wolf of
No, I never watched Wolf of Wall Street.
Wow, okay.
No, I never watched it. I know, I heard. I never saw that, and I missed some of her biggest roles, and I just like all I had was her Harley Quinn reference. And I'm like, I don't think she's that great. But I watched this range, I'm like, holy shit, she's got a hell of an amount of range. Mm-hmm. That entire cast was great, and the story was surprisingly, amazingly fun. Like I don't know, I laughed quite a bit during that movie, and it's rare to be in the theater for me and laugh. Like I said, like D&D got that laugh out of me. It's just rare to get like you get a chuckle, but when you get an actual laugh, it's a good thing, and it doesn't hit often like that for me, but it did. Yeah. So second movie of the year, second place for me. It was so fun.
The one comment I will add that I didn't touch upon earlier was that between this and D&D, right? I love that both of these were comedies because I feel today we don't get many of those in theaters. It's all like straight to streaming kind of thing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it feels good to go to a movie theater and laugh like genuinely at like just
a movie like that,
right? Intentionally supposed to be a comedy, not like just that was a comedic quip or whatever in a different movie or something like that.
I can't remember the last time I saw a comedy in the theaters. Actually, now you think about it, like 21 Jump Street, maybe. Yeah. I'm trying to think of back when we saw comedies. That was about it. Old school, stuff like that. It's like
they don't make movies like those.
No, but we had some great comedies that were different than those, but great this year. So hopefully we see a return.
Barbie, so it's not on my list.
Okay, Corey, what was your number 2?
My number 2 is Spider-Man Across Spider-Verse. A lot of stuff you guys already mentioned. Obviously, Mike, I am on the complete opposite side of it. I think the animation is what makes this movie as amazing as it is. The things they do with the animation and how it starts off strong. It starts off with a freaking fight with a
paper vulture.
Yeah, paper version of Vulture, and then you get I think one of the best iterations of Spider-Man 2099 as far as being an antagonist goes, because obviously he is.
Yeah, he's a great antagonist. Absolutely,
he's amazing in that role, and I'm not a big fan of the Spot in this but he's the MacGuffin part of this, I think. And then obviously will
Absolutely.
have a much bigger role in the next film. But
Yep.
as far as this one goes, I do think it was a complete movie. As far as where it ends, like okay, I get like it's got that Empire ending to it, but I felt like I got a complete story arc for a lot of the characters, and now we're gonna get to go into like the fully leveled up versions of like Gwen and her issues, because like she had like, I do feel like this was a Gwen movie because she was the one that went through the arc as far as discovering who she is in a way, and figuring out what she wanted and what.
I mean, it opens and ends with her, right?
Yeah,
Right.
nobody said
Absolutely.
nobody said this was completely just Miles Morales' story. Nobody did that, so I'm fine with
he's
this.
like front and center on the posters, but like Gwen's a great character, so like you do want to see more of the character, and so again, the animation just blew me away. I think what
Lego
they're
Spider-Man,
doing is just,
come on, like that was amazing.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
There's amazing.
That was like a teenager that did that. Like that's crazy.
I mean, I'm gonna hold my comments because I'll be talking about this shortly. Just to preview, I'll give it away right now, but I'll be talking about this shortly. But I'll talk about
it. It's amazing film, and getting to see it in the theater is a treat. You know,
yes,
the way
absolutely.
The way it was meant to be seen.
Again, like that's
and the music in this film was
music was
best.
Soundtrack was great.
Again, like I feel like Godzilla was a good example of that too for the theaters. There are movies that you should see in the theaters, and I do understand the move we're making as a society away from theaters, especially like as I have an 11-year-old here, doesn't want to go to the movie. She just wants to be able to pause the movie when she wants to go to the bathroom and stuff like that. And I get like that's what they're used to. That's where that's where the movie theaters are going. By the way, it's because of this. But there are experiences, which I don't think she can enjoy yet at this point, that you should have in the theater that's worth that. Like I gotta hold my pee for another half an hour to make it through this movie because I gotta see it. There are experiences that are out there, and Godzilla would be one, and I think Spider-Verse is another one.
Just the moments that they have, the the emotional impact that you feel throughout the films, like it takes you all over, like the whole spectrum. Just like I said, we're saying with Godzilla, like you're getting the full spectrum of emotions and things like that. So it nailed it for me there. So number two.
Tony, you're number two.
Number two, I think we're going to talk about it, but Guardians of the Galaxy, Volume 3.
Guardians. I am sorry this did not make my list because this is an incredible finale for a series. Go on.
It is also my number 4.
It's my number 4. That's where it would be.
Yeah, it was close. I didn't get to rewatch this before. So I just want
to though. Like the emotional roller coaster of the films.
Right, and that's
you know what though? That intro, holy shit! Like that beginning.
Yeah.
But go on.
No, I mean, the thing is, like, I got to recognize that this was pretty much a decade of following these characters, and kind of like what we talked about with the D&D movie. Like this party really felt like a D&D party where you just have these. And they talk about it throughout all the films and all the appearances how they're a dysfunctional family that kind of hate each other at times, but they love each other at the end of the day. But, they resolve their issues and they can work towards that greater good, the team mission, stuff like that. And this one being so focused on that, especially with the culmination of, like, Rocket's storyline, Nebula's storyline,
Rocket's story was so Quill's sad, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just... And I really didn't expect it to be, like, that emotional, right?
Yeah,
and even the marketing, they're like, this is the last ride for this cast of Guardians of the Galaxy, right? Because, like... And we know through comic, knowledge and stuff like that. I've never read one of them, but the people come and go through that team and stuff like that. So it's like, it definitely was a little heart-wrenching when you're like, yeah, okay, this is the last Guardian. We don't know what's going to happen. And I think they did a great job. They gave closure to all the characters, even Drax, and his banter with like Mantis, right? Like the whole time you're just like, oh, you see where this is going. But by the end, it's just like, oh, I didn't expect that at all, and it's like kind of like it's like damn, this is a little sad, especially when the part where they're we're with all the children, right? I think towards the last third of the movie, and you find out that Drax is a little he's got like some himbo energy to him, right? That's the best way I could describe that. But he has that thing with children because he's more maybe emotionally intelligent or something like that.
Yeah.
So that was really
I
touching.
love that Mantis is like you were born to be a dad and not
Yeah.
like destroyer. Like
Right.
that was like
yeah, it's just like God, like okay, because like the whole time that's what through a decade again of movie appearances, like that's what he's built as, and it's like, and you know, I feel like maybe there's opportunity there to go into that over the past decade, but who can, right? When two of those are Avengers movies and stuff like that. But all these characters got satisfying narrative conclusions to their story, and I still remember seeing that first movie like a decade ago, and I couldn't picture this end. Think back. I could never be like, when this series and when this trilogy ends, I'm gonna be like wrecked. I'm gonna be like, damn, shit, okay, like, and just
I'm telling you, like when that opening credits, they played the acoustic version of Creep with Rocket. I was like immediately, I'm like, oh shit, this is the end. Like you knew it going there. When they start with that, you're like, shit, this is gonna be a ride. You know what I mean? Like that, just that intro. And it's funny because like I listen to that in the car on occasion. So there's a Guardians of the Galaxy, like somebody made a playlist of all this stuff, and it's just like it's amazing music, the way it accompanies these movies, and the way that they close it out again, accompanying these characters.
Yeah, and the emotional heartstrings that they're pulling on with the music, like they're
James Gunn has an absolute talent for tying music to shows. There's movies and shows. There's no doubt about it. You can argue his storytelling, whatever you want to talk about with that, but you cannot argue how good he is with tying music in with just pulling the right strings at the right time for you. It's so good.
Yeah, and one of the most heart-wrenching scenes in like this whole entire year was when Rocket escapes and they escaping.
Oh God, yeah, I know. I wanted Amanda to watch this movie. Everything. I know. I wanted Amanda to watch this movie, and then I watched it. Thank God I watched it without her, because
they're coming for you.
Apparently. I watched that sequence, and I'm like, there's no chance. No chance she's watching this movie. I will get killed for it. She's a big animal lover. So
one where it's like Quill focused, two is kind of Gamora family focused, and then Rocket focused here at the end, and it comes all full circle though with everybody, and it is a fantastic film, and it was I was on the cusp of it being 3 and with Godzilla 3 on my list, so yeah, I think maybe like you mentioned earlier, maybe it's the recency bias, but all right, I mean, when you look at it, Guardians is amazing.
Mike, I want to go out of order here, Mike, but you haven't gone for a little bit because you gave us your 2 and 3. Give us your number 1. What's your number 1 movie?
I'll keep in mind now, my number 1 could have been my most disappointing. I was thinking about it.
Gosh. Well, you know what it is, Mike.
It's almost both. It's The Flash. The Flash was my favorite movie I watched this year.
The Flash. Nice.
Yeah. I'm still excited. I still was excited to see these characters show up in a movie together again one more time.
Like the Michael Keaton part of it. The Michael Keaton
part was great.
Mike has to say, Joe. Before you say anything, I gotta hear what Mike has to say.
I'm agreeing with him on this Michael Keaton part. Go on.
I thought he was great. I thought, Ezra, with all the problems, was fine in this role. It was pretty funny. And it was heartfelt as well, the way, it ended. But, no, Keaton, even seeing Batfleck, even though he's sort of a caricature of his, like, Justice League self in this movie, little bit, just having them again together, it was fun. And, it was closer to what I wanted from this. Obviously, I don't understand why they decided to have like intentionally bad CGI and in it, and the ending is a little messy, as all time travel endings are. But overall, I was satisfied with what this movie gave me. So,
I mean, you gotta give some credit here. Supergirl casted great. She was fantastic in this movie for the small role that she ended up having. I guess pivotal role. She was fantastic. And Michael Keaton. What was weird about this situation was I was just reminiscing about this movie for some reason, and I thought, like, man, Michael Keaton was really good in that movie. Like, I think you finally get to see him just have fun with the character.
I mean, and you also see, some good Batman action from him. That, haven't seen. You see very, like, wise, older, but, like, also still the weird, crazy guy that he was in, his actual movies back in the day. But yeah, you get some interesting stuff, seeing how he handles, like, the Russian prison and all that stuff. There was there's good stuff in this movie. I liked most of it. It's just
Well,
CGI was bad, and I'm just disappointed that everyone else seemed to hate it.
yeah, I mean, listen, didn't make her.
Yeah, the
Didn't get her most.
problem.
Go on, Matt. Go on, Corey. Go on.
So the problem for me is I love Michael Keaton's Batman, and I do agree Supergirl was great, but the main star of this film is a guy that I can't watch the actor anymore. Like I just don't enjoy his acting or their acting. Not like stand up like separating the person. Like I'm not even gonna talk about the person, but just the actor themselves. I don't enjoy watching this person on the screen. And so when this person is the star of the film and the CGI is so bad and making everything else look so terrible, it's just like it's not worth investing time into trying to see like Michael Keaton do his thing and the Supergirl actress do her thing. It's just not worth it because you're getting this terrible actor and so yeah, it's just
yeah. So for me, Ezra Miller
staying alone from the person themselves.
Yeah,
I don't know what
Ezra,
that means, honestly. That sounds like you're talking around yourself. That doesn't make any sense.
To give me credit,
I'm saying because people will say I don't want to watch this person because I don't agree with their political views on things. I'm not. I'm saying I'm doing what you're doing, Mike, and saying I'm giving you
in a vacuum.
Yeah, it's saying just
As
the actor themselves.
Are you're trying to say? But are you trying to say the performance is bad, or you just dislike the
performance,
individual?
the mannerisms? It's this Michael Cera thing for Jim, like the performance, the mannerisms, the way they carry themselves. Like those are the things that I don't enjoy watching, so I'm not gonna enjoy the character themselves.
You can go back for me to the original appearance of Ezra Miller as the Flash, and I will tell you that I did not like him, and that's one of my favorite comic book characters.
I didn't like the initial take either, but I thought in this movie by splitting up the character, no, it's not. As making the main Flash be like the straight man to the ridiculous like version of the Flash, you sort of make that character more, more tolerable, and he grows. I'm sorry, the character grows. I know you guys said he didn't grow in this movie, but I think he did.
It's fine. This is your number. I absolutely like. I get your love of the universe, like not the DCU in general. I'm talking, but like I get you like the DCU.
To have all these characters there. Yeah,
absolutely, I get it.
I mean, I felt like I was the biggest DCU fan before.
I mean, to give this movie credit, it was none of our most disappointing.
I didn't watch it, and it couldn't disappoint because I called this like 6 years ago. So.
Yeah. So, but yeah, all right, cool. That's Mike's number one. I mean, it's fine.
It was the only movie coming into this year that I'm like, I have to see this movie.
Yeah, no, I know.
It has Batman in it
for you. Yeah.
Yeah, it has two Batman. It was cool.
My favorite Batman.
Yeah, Michael Keaton's Batman, so good.
Well,
was the head bob Batman instead, Corey? Was that your favorite?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Anyways, so all right, my number one movie I've already talked about, Spider-Verse. So I, as I mentioned, superheroes coming straight from the Flash. I have three superheroes-ish top characters in the comic book world. You know, Spider-Man, Magneto, the Flash are probably my top. They are my top three. And probably in that order, maybe Magneto may be number one over Spider-Man. I don't know, but whatever. Spider-Man 2 we mentioned years ago for me being my top 5 movie category. If you go back to these other episodes we used to record, you can hear our top 5 movies of all time kind of thing. We've done this before, and Spider-Man 2 I believe it hit that list for me. This movie immediately goes into that list. That's how good this movie is for me. I don't think I've ever been in a theater realizing how much I love this movie. I've watched it 2 times at home already again, plus the theater this year. That's a lot for me, especially because I'm doing other stuff. But I absolutely love this world, and I think the reason for that is as an old school Peter Parker fan, I love the Spider-Man stuff. Mike and I have argued about this. We want the older Peter Parker. You and I have been not argued together. We've talked about it together on the same side of this conversation where we want an older Peter Parker when they cast Tom Holland, who by the way has done a great job. But this gives you completely new characters for me. Like I'm not a comic book reader I'm not really a big comic book reader in general. So I don't know anything about Spider-Gwen. I don't know anything about Miles Morales. So I'm getting my story from these characters in these movies. And I have to say that like Spider-Gwen in this movie and Miles' growth in that first 50 minutes that Mike talked about where he hated this movie, absolutely loved it. I got the backstory, I got the character development that I wanted.
Hated it, just was too long for how much of the movie.
I absolutely loved it. I loved getting that information because I don't know it, and I got some more growth from these characters that I wanted to see what they were without their personas, and you get the personal vibe from that. Then you get all of their personas in the second half of the movie, like you were talking about. You get their Spider-Man personas, and all of that from that point on is takeoff fun. Yes, there are some obvious gripes. There are some issues with the ending, with it cutting short. There are some like there was in the theater when we as it was like getting towards the ending, I'm realizing like, wait, this is a part one. I didn't even think about that while I was going on through the entire movie, because I was like, oh crap, the credits are gonna roll, and then they rolled. That's what happened to me. That's how much I was enjoying this movie. I was so engrossed in it, I didn't even think about that until we got to the point where it was rolling, and I'm just like, no, I want more of this story immediately, but I know we have to wait. Everything about this movie, music, art, characters, with the exception of, I cannot disagree with you guys about the attitude of all of the Spider-Men in the world, in the universes, having the, you have to follow this rule because that's not Spider-Man. For it may be some of them, but it's not all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And
none I've seen.
Yeah, I mean, we watched the classic Fox version where they brought in multiple Spider-Man. Remember? We watched that one on the Spider-Man show, the animated series. So we've seen that, but like, it's such a good. I guess maybe like I see it as their Empire, and that's why I'm loving it so much, because Empire is my favorite Star Wars, and this I'm just hoping like the final movie doesn't need to be as good. I hope it is, but it needs to stick the landing. That's what it needs to do. If it does stick that landing, it's going to be incredible. I just absolutely love this world. I cannot say enough about the amount of work that these artists have to do to put this together. Like, it's incredible what they have to do to make every one of these Spider-Man different. Like, yeah, unbelievable.
No, for sure. And I didn't mention it, but actually that's one of the things that also didn't sit well with me, because we got knowledge that the crew on this got crunched.
True. And that's true. Yeah, there was crunch on a movie.
Right?
Yeah.
And I can't.
There's always been crunch in movies. We just know it now.
No, this is bad crunch. Like, this is extreme crunch. So.
Oh, this is like, yeah, it's all animation. So.
Right. Yep.
But yeah, I get you. So that was my number one movie. We've heard about it a few times, so I'm good. That's it for me. Corey, your number one movie.
My number one movie is John Wick 4. So
I did not see this. Yeah, go on.
John Wick.
I totally forgot that was that past year.
I had a feeling that you were gonna, like, somebody's gonna forget about a movie during. I'm happy I haven't done this yet. Yeah. Last year was
John
me.
Wick 4 is like, I love John Wick's like universe. What they've created with it is amazing, and I like that this movie was a definitive ending to a character's story arc. Like, it's supposed to be, and if they don't, then that will ruin this movie, because I don't want to see it. But they do have a spin-off, the ballerina, so we'll see how that goes. But anyway, John Wick 4, everything from the action to just the story that this character goes through, and again, the ending is supposed to be the ending definitively. Like, it's hard to come back from this ending, and if they do, like I said, it may change my perspective on this film. But everything they talk about, and outside of this, if we're gonna metagame this, like, they are saying they want to try to do more because whatever.
Yep,
but I just don't see why or how they would do that with the way they end this film. And so, like, that all putting that together, that makes this movie for me like number one of this year. I've enjoyed and had fun with this film has been like makes it like obviously number one. And just, I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted because I have my son is making a guest appearance here.
Good timing.
Yep. Good. But I'm on the call here, so I'll be right there. Okay.
He's doing his of the year.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's just the way that they're innovating with action in the movie as well, and the sequences are just, they keep, like, you think, wow, how are they gonna top this one, and then they top it, and then like, how are you gonna top this, and then they top it. It's like amazing. And yeah, it's just like, there's unbelievable things with, there's no way somebody's gonna survive this or that, but that's what these movies are. It's like,
well, that's exactly what I'm saying with the ending. Like, it's one of those where this feels like the Batman again to me, where like, I feel like you could have cut 20 minutes out of it, and I would have appreciated the movie more. Because like that last scene with the stairs, that's when I tapped out. I was like, come the fuck on.
I can see.
I was like, dude, like, how many times are you gonna fall down these stairs?
You're gonna fall down, you're gonna get back up again, and you're gonna fall down and do it again. You're gonna do it again. And I loved it. I love that. And like I like the top down sequence they do.
Oh, that was amazing. That was my favorite part of the movie.
Awesome. Yeah. So everything about this I think kept upping the game as far as what had previously come and had come before is just so good too. So yeah.
Cool. All right, Tony, give me your number one movie.
Mine is definitely Godzilla -1, and I had to think about this because I didn't want it to be recency bias, and that's why I watched Spider-Verse again, and at least like watch some like shorter videos on Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I was like, oh yeah, okay, got the beats. But Godzilla -1 to me is like a perfect standalone movie where it's like it's hard for me to go like watch Guardians of the Galaxy 3. It's like, well, I haven't seen the others, and I haven't seen the Avengers. It's like, okay, you know what? That's not going to be a good movie for you then, right? Like, that takes away a lot of it, because it's homework, right? Yep. Same thing with Spider-Verse to a lesser degree and stuff like that.
Yep.
So to me, like, you don't need to know what Godzilla is, you know? Like, I would actually say it's probably better if you almost don't. Yeah. Right, it doesn't matter.
It'd be a great first Godzilla movie.
It would be an amazing first experience to Godzilla, because to me, like, it's titled Godzilla, right? And we know it goes into the greater mythos and stuff, but really, he's just a force of nature. It could be anything you could talk about. You could insert, any other monster. You could insert, King Kong. You could insert zombies. You could insert
tornado if you wanted,
whatever. Like, that's
tornado,
not
hurricane,
right? Exactly. And that's what I viewed it as. Godzilla is a like natural disaster, a natural force of nature, right? So to me, like, this movie is perfect in the way that, like, it's about the human spirit when it comes down to it, right? Where it's about that tenacity to not give up, because the whole thing about the movie, which I know, Corey, you hate it, and I could see it, because you're not supposed to like that type of character at first, right? He's like the Shinji of Evangelion and whatnot, where it's just like, this is a weenie character. This is a coward, right? And that they drive that home with almost every conversation, right? It's like from the get-go on the island to him returning to his hometown, and being berated by the neighbor.
The lady, the neighbor, yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
And then, meeting any of his old war...
to his roommate.
Yeah. Exactly. It's all, you didn't do your duty, right? But flip it around and you view it from a 2023, now 2024 perspective, and you're like, yeah, and they talk about this in the movie too, where it's like, it was kind of a shitty thing to ask these people,
the Japanese government,
kamikaze pilots, to just throw their lives away in hopes that, you're going to sink a ship. It's just like, just the way that they didn't value human life at that point in time. And from a realist point of view, where you're talking about coming hot off the heels of World War II, where this nation is on its knees. It hasn't even recovered. It literally is licking its wounds, and now you have to deal with Godzilla just showing up and being like, I'm fucking your country up. I don't know why. It's here, and I need to fuck this up. It's just in the way, right?
And he has no bias. It's not like he's
no bias. He has no reasoning. He has no motive other than like that is what it does, right?
We didn't find out why he wanted to go to Tokyo, right? They didn't explain why he was Tokyo, did they? They didn't bother.
They sort of like hinted, because the doctor character, professor or whatever, did the trajectory and stuff, and he's like, I feel it's going for Tokyo or whatever like that. And I forget if it was just drawn to like a energy source or something like that.
I think it's like the whole thing, right? It's just the radiation.
Right.
Yeah.
The radiation stuff.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, it just, at the end of the day, it comes down to the indomitable human spirit, right? Where that character finds his courage and finds his, like, the easy thing is always to give up, right? And the hard thing is to continue going, right? Is to never give up and just be like, yep, I got to try this a second, third, fourth, 50th, 100th, 1000th time, but, I'm going to get there. So that whole, ending sequence where, things come together. And, I can understand the angle where it's like, oh, it's maybe too happy of an ending. But honestly, in the last, like, 5-8 years of media where just from The Walking Dead to Game of Thrones to
it.
Last
Yeah,
of Us to like
saying.
all that stuff.
Like, I'm not.
Like I'm no. I'm just.
Yeah.
Hear me out. I'm just saying.
I gotcha.
It is refreshing to see something where it's like, look, like things don't need to be shit, and then there are moments of sadness, of bleakness,
but I felt
in
like,
this movie.
I'm trying to be, like I said, this is a fresher movie. I'm not gonna spoil this, but I felt like the ending didn't need that part. I felt like the ending that he had was fine.
I think they, like I said when I was talking about it, they shit on this guy so much, and like they do turn it around for him, and I feel like without all that happening, I think it would have been worse in my opinion. I think I liked it a lot more because of both of the things that happened.
The final ending is what I'm saying. That
no, I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. I'm just saying I think both of the happy things needed to happen.
And this is
for me to get be okay with this guy.
This is a flip conversation for Corey and myself, because I'm usually on the other side of this conversation, by the way, for mega happy endings. But I just felt like that was a little over the top. But I loved.
No, like
it was funny that I knew they were going for that. Because
I mean, like the whole thing with the kid as well. Like you.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
Like you're fucking over the kid too, in that sense. So,
but it's the reality of the situation. I'm sorry. I don't want to.
The reality of the situation. We're talking about a giant monster movie, dude.
Yeah, that's the idea. That the thing was so imposing and just destruction.
The idea was that something good can come out of so much terrible things.
But I felt like good came out of it already. That's the thing. Like it didn't need that part of it. Like good came out of what happened, no matter what. No matter what, without that part, same ending.
The turtles didn't need to go to high school.
Yeah, that's true. No, it's the same idea. It's a little bit too far. Like, I feel like the ending doesn't change. The character development doesn't change even without that last.
No, I think it does, because without that character has regret now.
Well, sure, but that's the idea. Yeah, I guess you're right. I mean, that's the idea.
Well, sure, but
yeah, I guess you're right. So putting it that way, you're right.
I mean, don't you think that's fucking sad that dude had to write a letter and saying, "Hey, I'm probably not coming back from this one. Raise my fucking kid because she has nobody else." Like that's bleak. Part. And as a parent, you should think differently about that.
Not that part. I'm not talking about that part. The hospital part is what I'm talking about.
You can't separate those two things. Those two things are directly related.
You need to have that.
Okay, I felt like you didn't.
That's just my opinion, obviously, and you're on the same side with me, Tony.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you want to have the other opinion, it's fine. It's just I think that they needed to have them both there.
Okay, all right. Well, that's our of the years, folks. So our number one movies, once again, Mike's was The Flash, mine was Spider-Verse, John Wick 4 for Corey, Godzilla for Tony. We had a lot of overlap.
Caveat: if that's the actual end, and then they can just go with Ballerina, and then not that many more John Wicks.
Gotcha. So if we get a John Wick 5, Corey changes his. What's your backup selection?
Everything else just bumped up.
Exactly.
Okay. And Guardians becomes number 3.
Dead Reckoning was a fantastic film this year, also. So if we're gonna do honorable mentions.
Churro chimed in, very diverse. Yeah, Churro, we have a lot of overlap, a lot of years. Just say Game of the Year might be a little overlap on occasion. Actually, games are usually more variety. But
Spider-Verse hit every number. So.
It deserved it though. Like it deserved it.
Absolutely, it's great.
Yeah. But all right, let's go to the Gamecast next, guys. This is gonna wrap up the Moviecast. The movie of the year, games of the year, obviously will be next week. This is gonna be a regular Gamecast coming up next. Stay tuned. Got some fun stuff to talk about. Actually, we'll see you over there. Thanks for tuning in. See ya.